us navigate through the difficulties and trials of life. O Allah, make us of those who strive sincerely for your pleasure, seeking your Jannah. O Allah, we ask you to make us of those who love you and love your Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and love good people and love the masjid. Make us of those who strive for your Jannah and strive for your pleasure with every passing day of our lives. We ask you to make us of those who are in your shade the day that there's no shade but your shade, and to bless us to drink from the palms of our beloved Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a drink that will never feel thirst thereafter. We ask you to make the best of our days the last of our days, the best of our actions the last of our actions, and the best of all days the day that we meet you and you are pleased with us, Ya Rabbil Alameen. We ask you, Allah, to bless this masjid and to bless this community and to bless our congregation, to bless the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. O Allah, make this space a place of dhikr and ibadah and worship and remembrance and knowledge and activism. O Allah, inspire our hearts towards goodness. O Allah, inspire our hearts towards goodness, and remove from our hearts fitna and shahwa. Remove from our hearts fitna and shahwa and desires and temptations that steer us away from you, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Allahumma ameen, Allahumma ameen, Allahumma ameen. Wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Inshallah, we'll hear adhan now, and then we'll have Salat al-Maghrib, and then we'll have our lecture part of the program, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya 'ala as-salah. Hayya 'ala حي على الفلاح حي على الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
لا إله إلا الله. We have a few more spots in the first row. If you could just please finish them. جزاكم الله خير. لا إله إلا الله. استقيموا يرحمني يرحمكم الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. ومن أعرض عن ذكري فإن له معيشة ضنكا ونحشره يوم القيامة أعمى قال رب لم حشرتني أعمى وقد كنت بصيرا قال كذلك أتتك آياتنا فنسيتها وكذلك اليوم تنسى وكذلك نجزي من أسرف ولم يؤمن بآيات ربه ولعذاب الآخرة أشد وأبقى أفلم يهد لهم كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون يمشون في مساكنهم إن في ذلك لآيات لأولي النهى ولولا كلمة سبقت من ربك لكان لزاما وأجل مسمى فاصبر على ما يقولون وسبح بحمد ربك قبل طلوع الشمس وقبل غروبها ومن آناء الليل فسبح وأطراف النهار لعلك ترضى. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين، اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. آمين. فاصبر على ما يقولون وسبح بحمد ربك قبل طلوع الشمس وقبل غروبها ومن آناء الليل فسبح وأطراف النهار لعلك ترضى. ولا تمدن عينيك إلى ما متعنا به أزواجا منهم زهرة الحياة الدنيا لنفتنهم فيه ورزق ربك خير وأبقى. وأمر أهلك بالصلاة واصطبر عليها لا نسألك رزقا نحن نرزقك والعاقبة للتقوى. وقالوا لولا يأتينا بآية من ربه أولم تأتهم بينة ما في الصحف الأولى ولو أنا أهلكناهم بعذاب من قبله لقالوا ربنا لولا أرسلت إلينا رسولا فنتبع آياتك من قبل أن نذل ونخزى. قل كل متربص فتربصوا فستعلمون من أصحاب الصراط السوي ومن اهتدى. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله السلام عليكم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الله أكبر. استغفر الله العظيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Jazakumullah khair for coming today for the Friday Forum. We have a special event today, alhamdulillah. We have special guests from UIF, University Islamic Finance, Wesam Berjaoui Mayzer Ramadan. They're going to give us a presentation about Islamic finance and home buying and the whole process and everything that relates to it. It's a good opportunity to ask all your questions relating to Islamic mortgages, inshaAllah. So inshaAllah we're going to start our program immediately after we pray Salat al-Sunnah. Jazakumullah khair. Barakallah feekum. Assalamu alaikum. Sisters, you're welcome to remove the barrier and come towards the center here, inshaAllah. Jazakumullah khair. The first 3 rows. The first 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. 4? Okay, I think that's good. That's good. Yeah. Ibrahim, you could also turn off 7 if you want. 7. There you go. That's good. If you guys want, sisters, you're welcome to come more towards this way to be closer so you could see the presentation easier, inshallah. Brothers, anyone, if you guys could come on here, it would be good. Jazakallah khair. Barakallah feekum. Ya Rabb. Do you need more time, or are you good? Okay. Inshallah. I'm going to get started. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد أشرف الخلق وسيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We usually start our program with dua, and today we have an opportunity to make a special dua. We have some dua requests from our local community. One of our sisters who's a regular with us, she's with us here, Sister Cheryl Haq, she asked that we make dua for her for shifa, and we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to give her full shifa and healing from all illnesses. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma rabban nas adhib al-ba's washfi anta ash-shafi la shifaa illa shifaa'uk ishfiha shifaa la yughadiru saqama. Nasallahu al-azim رب العرش العظيم أن يشفيها مما يؤذيها. نسأل الله العظيم رب العرش العظيم أن يشفيها مما يؤذيها. نسأل الله العظيم رب العرش العظيم أن يشفيها مما يؤذيها. اللهم داويها بدوائك واشفيها بشفائك يا رب العالمين. آمين آمين. And we also make dua for the aunt of our sister Dr. Saima Sandhu, who passed away today in Pakistan. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to have mercy upon her. اللهم اغفر لها وارحمها وعافها واعف عنها وتجاوز عن سيئاتها. اللهم أكرم نزلها ووسع مدخلها وجاف الأرض عن جنبيها. اللهم إن كانت محسنة فزد في إحسانها، وإن كانت مسيئة فتجاوز عن سيئاتها. اللهم اغسلها بالماء والثلج والبرد ونقها من الذنوب والخطايا والآثام كما ينقى الثوب الأبيض من الدنس. اللهم اجعل مأواها الجنة ولا تجعل مأواها النار. اللهم اجعل مأواها الجنة ولا تجعل مأواها النار. اللهم ابدلها دارا خيرا من دارها وأهلا خيرا من أهلها وجيرانا خيرا من جيرانها، وارزق أهلها الصبر والسلوان واجمعهم بها في جناتك جنات النعيم يا أرحم الراحمين. Ameen, ameen. There's also one more dua before I pass it off to Nail to introduce our special guest, and also to make some announcements about our programs that are coming up. How many of you have heard of the biggest janazah that happened today in one of our Muslim countries? Raise your hand if you've heard of it. You've heard of it? A few people? Alright. If you've heard of it, do you know who it was for? Do you know his name? You know his name? Mahmoud Effendi, Sheikh Mahmoud Effendi. Subhanallah, you know, when someone, as it appears, lives a life for Allah Azza wa Jal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honors that person, especially at his death. And we saw this with our dear brother, young brother, last week, Umar Naufal. The Friday forum was about him. And everyone was very, very impacted by his passing. Allah yarhamu. Today it's about one of the prominent scholars of the Ummah, Sheikh Mahmoud Effendi. He lived to the age of 93. He was one of the most famous shuyukh and scholars in Turkey, a scholar of knowledge and teaching, and many followers. His janazah today in Turkey, if you go see images, go look it up. It was in the tens of thousands, perhaps over 100,000 people gathered to bury this 93-year-old man who lived it in ibadah and ta'aleem. And we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to have mercy upon him and to elevate his status and resurrect him among the scholars of the Ummah and under the banner of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allahumma ameen, Allahumma ameen. I won't take too much longer. We want to hear what our special guest has to say, our brother Wesam Berjaoui from UIF. Again, I said this is a special opportunity. If you have questions about Islamic mortgages and about the home buying process, make sure you ask tonight. Take advantage of the opportunity. Like we normally do, we have our Google Voice number right there, 862-208-3638. If you don't want to, you could ask questions directly if you're okay with that. But if you want to text it, text that number, and our brother Mayzer is going to be here to field the questions to our guest, Brother Wesam, inshallah. So I'm going to pass it over to Brother Nail to just announce a few important programs and to introduce our speaker, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome everyone to tonight for the Friday Forum. So for those that are here for the first time, the Friday Forum is a weekly event that happens every Friday night to discuss, and it's usually for the young adults to discuss current topics and current issues through an Islamic lens. Just to give you an idea about the format of this event, the event starts at 8 p.m. starting with a social session, and then we will have a group adhkar and dua, given that this is a blessed time. And then the main program usually starts right after Salat al-Maghrib. So tonight, like the Sheikh said, we have a couple of special guest speakers from UIF, which is an Islamic bank, and they'll be discussing home buying and Islamic financing. We have Brother Wesam Berjaoui, who's a VP of Sales, and Mayzer Ramadan, who's a Senior Area Lead. They'll be giving a presentation followed by a Q&A, inshallah. And just before we get started, just one announcement. We do have our first annual 5K race this Sunday, June 26th. It's going to be in Brookdale Park in Bloomfield. There will be activities for the family, so please try your best to make it. There's going to be a race for both the brothers and the sisters, and it will start at 9 a.m. And there's more information. If you'd like to register, there's more information available at the ICPC website. So with that, I'll hand it off to our special guests.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah. I want to thank the masjid and the imam for allowing us to be here today. They are not endorsing us, but they are allowing us to present on behalf of UIF and to also do an educational presentation on Islamic finance, on how it works. My name is Wesam Berjaoui, and this is your local representative and my colleague as well, Brother Mayzer Ramadan, inshallah. So please feel free to speak with him after the presentation with any specific questions that you may have. We also have a sign-in sheet on the back as well, that if you're looking to get a book, a PDF book on Islamic finance, that we will email to you if you put that information in. Inshallah, we will, I ask you to please leave all questions till the end of the presentation, and we will do our best to answer every question that we can with regards to Islamic home financing. Once the Sheikh and the brother also mentioned to the community that we're a special guest. I hope we're not a special guest, and hopefully we're brothers and we're family, inshallah. I have a rule that anyone that comes to my house, I tell them, you're not a special guest, you're a family member, and you're a brother. So we are all brothers, inshallah. I'm no special and no different than all of you, inshallah. And with that, I know that the Imam was talking about life and the janazah and such. And while we are here doing an educational presentation, I do really want to remind all of you, myself included, that the best of homes is the homes in Jannah, inshallah, right? No matter what house you have here, the house in Jannah is our final house and the best house, inshallah. So first and foremost, don't forget to donate to this masjid, and also don't forget to, inshallah, increase your good deeds as well, because you never know when that time is. Today, tomorrow, nothing is guaranteed, no matter how young, as Brother Omar was, or how old that the Sheikh was in Turkey as well, right? Whatever is written for us, but we have that time. So please let us not pass up that opportunity. I'm here on behalf of UIF, and UIF stands for University Islamic Financial. Some of you may have heard of us, and some of you may have not. So just to do a quick introduction on UIF, let me go over this next slide, inshallah. So I've been with the company UIF for 14 years, right? Some of you may have heard of us, other of you may have not. So, but alhamdulillah, we've been around for about 17 years. We've done about $4.5 billion in residential financing. We, on any given day, have around $50 million in our deposit accounts. We've done about $100 million in commercial financing, which is real estate, shopping centers, masjids, Islamic schools, medical offices, and so on. So, alhamdulillah, we've been around for quite a few years now, and we've streamlined the process. If you look at this map over here, you will see that it's color-coded, and those are the states that we are operational in. And the reason why we are not operational in all 50 states is because we do not offer an interest contract. If we did offer a traditional mortgage interest contract, then it would be a lot easier to be operational in all 50 states. But we do offer a different contract, which is Sharia compliant, which will go over the different models of financing, whether it's with us or other companies, just to get some knowledge about that. But with that, many of you have questions. What is Islamic finance? Is it the same? Is it different? Are you holding your ear like this? Or sometimes are you holding your ear like this, right? Sometimes I get this question, and if I'm talking to you and I'm holding my ear like this, you're not going to think anything of it. But if I'm holding my ear like this, you're going to say, Brother Wesam, what's wrong with you, right? And with that, Islamically speaking, there's a right way and a wrong way of doing things, and pretty much everything in life, there's a right way and wrong way of doing it. And so we'll go over what is the difference, and it's not just the end goal, right? It's not just what you pay that's the difference, but it's also the process that what makes a transaction halal or not, right? So the paperwork is different that you sign with us at the time of closing. There is no interest contract that is signed, and also the process of how we get there makes the difference as well. And I'm going to go through that in the next few slides. But generally speaking, right, in any Islamic transaction, you cannot profit off of lending money, right? I can lend you money. There's nothing haram about lending you money. If I lend you $1,000, you would have to pay me back $1,000. There's nothing haram about lending money. And in fact, lending money is encouraged to help those who need it. But you cannot profit from it. So if I lend you $1,000 because you need it, you pay me back $1,000. Not 1,001 penny, not $1,100, right? You pay me back what I have lent you. So there's nothing wrong with lending money, but you cannot profit off of it from an Islamic perspective. Now, in Islam, you can profit from buying and selling a physical asset, right? A physical asset can profit off of it. As we all know that the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was a tradesman, and he would buy and sell goods and profit off of it, as well as the Sahaba as well. So buying and selling a physical asset is the key difference in terms of an Islamic transaction instead of lending money. Now, as we were introduced, my name is Wesam Berjaoui. There is no special preface to my name. I don't have any special titles. I'm not a sheikh, I'm not a mufti or nothing like that. And because of that, I cannot certify that the program is halal. And that's why we have experts that have reviewed and approved of our program to make sure that it is Sharia compliant and halal, right? As we all know, Islamically, you should ask the scholars that do know in order to get the right fatwa. And we do have scholars that have expertise in Islamic finance that have reviewed and approved of our program. And we have other sheikhs that have used our program for their own home needs, which gives us a comfort level of the type of program that we offer. Currently on our Sharia Supervisory Board, you have Mufti Abdullah Nana, Sheikh Nizam Yaqubi, the late Professor Sheikh Hussein Hamid, and Abdul Bari Mash'al. These are our scholars that we have. And year after year, we also get a review of our program and documents to make sure that we're still Sharia compliant, which no other Islamic finance company does. And we also have other sheikhs, as I said, that have used our program. Imam Muhammad Majid, which is the former president of ISNA. We have Imam Zaid Shakir, Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, Sheikh Omar Suleiman, Sheikh Tahar Anwar. And if you go on our website, myuif.com, you'll get a greater list of other local sheikhs that have used our program as well. But to know the difference between a halal and haram contract or process, you need to know what the current process is for the traditional mortgage company, which is a bank. How does a bank make money, and how does an interest contract work? So with a regular bank, the bank first has to get money, right? You go to a bank and they say, we're going to give you a 0.5% interest or 1% interest on the money that you put in if you put it into a savings account. So let's say John goes into the bank and John puts in $1,000. The bank says, okay, we're going to take John's $1,000 and we're going to give him a 0.5% interest for holding his money. Okay, so that is called buying money. That's how a bank buys money. Then, let's say Frank comes to the bank, and Frank says, I need $1,000 because I want to open up a business. And the bank says, sure, I'm going to lend you the $1,000, but the bank is going to charge you 5% interest on that money to Frank. So now Frank is going to pay 5% interest on the $1,000 that he's received, and that's how the bank makes money. From receiving 5% from Frank and paying a 0.5% to John, the difference between the two, the 4.5%, the interest spread, that is how a bank buys and sells money and makes a profit. Okay? So this is a traditional mortgage on how it works, where the money comes from, along with how it makes profit off of lending money. Not off of a physical asset, not over a partnership. It's just based on lending money. What Frank does with the $1,000, the bank doesn't really care. They just want to make sure they get their money back plus the interest. Now, from an Islamic finance perspective, as we discussed, you can buy and sell a physical asset, right? There's a lot of details to a transaction for it to be halal, but generally speaking, the item has to be a halal item. Two parties agree on the price, and it becomes a halal transaction, right? For example, let's say this water bottle. This water bottle, I want to sell it to you for, let's say, $1. You agree, it's a fair price. I give you the water bottle, you give me $1. It's a halal transaction, right? Because the water bottle is halal, and it's a fair price. I cannot sell you alcohol and say, here it's $1, and we both agree on the price. It's a haram transaction because the item is haram. Or, let's say, for example, the water, it's the summertime, it's getting hot here, and let's say it's 110 degrees outside, and it's very hot. And I know you're very thirsty. But now, instead of this $1 water, I can't sell it to you for $10 because I know you really need it, right? You may agree on the price, but because I'm taking advantage of your situation, it's not a halal transaction. You see that? So the item has to be halal, and two parties agree on the price, it's a halal transaction. And just a side note, it's not from the sunnah to negotiate so much until the person who's selling just says, leave me alone, take it for free. You know, I know that some from our culture, we like to haggle so much that we say, khalas, hal anni, leave me alone, right? Take the item for free. It's not from the sunnah, right? It's okay to bargain. There's nothing wrong with that. But there has to be room for a profit and both parties to be happy with the transaction. So if you take nothing away from this presentation, I hope you take that and you have some mercy on the merchant sellers going forward. Now, with that in mind, to go into Islamic finance in general, in the US, scholars have come up with three main modes of Islamic finance, okay? Here we may have 50, 60 people sitting here. If I ask you, how does Islamic finance work? Some of you, or most of you, will give me a mixture of these models together into one. You make it like a tabbouleh sandwich, a salad, right? But it should be three different models. Because depending on which model is used, there's different rights, responsibilities, and liabilities because someone or a different entity owns the property. So depending on who owns the property, there's more risk and there's more reward and so on. So keep that in mind. So I want you to learn about these different models, not just what we offer, that's on the side, but for you to know different models are there and not to mix them up. Okay? The first one is called murabaha. And the murabaha model is a marked up installment sales contract. Marked up installment sales contract. And in this model, the financing company purchases the property and then sells it to you at a higher price and breaks up the payment equally over a period of time. So let's say, for example, the house is $100,000. The financing company is going to purchase it for $100,000, resell it to you for, let's say, $120,000, and then break up the payment equally over a period of time, let's say 10 years. Okay, so it's a marked up sale. Kind of like if you are purchasing a phone from Best Buy, right? If you purchase, let's say, an Apple phone, okay? Let's say it's, I don't know, $1,200 now, right? So now they have sold you the phone, Best Buy has sold you the Apple phone, and you're going to pay them back every month $50. You own the phone 100%, and you're paying them back in installments. If you drop the phone and crack the screen, you still have to pay them back the $50 a month until you pay off the phone for $1,200. Or if you sell it on eBay for $1,500, you keep that the $1,500, pay them $1,200, and you keep the $300 profit, right? That is the murabaha model, marked up installment sales. You own it and you're paying back in installments. The second model is called ijara. Ijara is a lease to own. In this case, the financing company owns the property. Now, it owns the property and you're going to rent it from them with the intention to buy them out. Okay? Let's say, once again, the house is $100,000. The financing company is going to own the house. Every month, you're going to make a monthly payment. Part of your payment goes towards buying out, part of it goes towards the rent for you using their home. So kind of like if you're renting a house now, you're paying the landlord for using the landlord's property. But also part of your payment, you're saving money little by little to save up $100,000. Once you have that full $100,000, then the landlord will transfer the ownership to you. Up until that time, you do not own the property. The landlord owns the property. Okay, so this is a lease to own model. In the third model, the musharaka or partnership, and this is what UIF focuses on, it's a little bit of a mixture of the murabaha and the ijara. In this case, let's say the property once again is $100,000. Okay? Before I get into the specifics of that, I want to ask a question to see if, who's paying attention. In the first model, in the murabaha model, who owns the property? Yes? The buyer, the homeowner, correct. And in the ijara model, who owns the property? The bank or the financing company, correct? And the third model, it's a partnership. Together, the financing company and the homeowner own the property. Right? And I will go through this in more detail with that. So in the partnership model, the musharaka model, the customer comes to the financing company and gets an approval. So let's say you come to UIF, we form a partnership intention with you. You come to us, we ask you all the questions to get you pre-qualified. We give you a letter that says you're pre-qualified to, let's say, purchase a home for $100,000 with, let's say, 5% down, okay? But more importantly, in the pre-qualification letter, it says that we are a partner with you into the home, right? Because this is important to know that you have a partnership agreement. So now this house is $100,000. We buy the house together with you. Let's say you put 5%, we put the other 95%. Together we co-own the house 100%. Now, although we, in this example, co-own 95% of the property, you are going to use the property 100%. When you use the property, you're going to pay us a rent for using our share of the home. Okay, so we make a profit from you using our 95% of the ownership of the home. In your monthly payment, part of it goes towards the rent, which is the profit, and part of it goes towards buying out our ownership of the home as well. So next month, instead of you having 5% ownership, you're going to have 6%, 7%, 10% until you become 60, 80, 100% owner of the property. Right? So we co-own the property together. You make a monthly payment. Part of your payment goes towards the rent or profit that we make, and part of it goes towards ownership of the home until you become 100% owner in the property. And as you could see here in this diagram as well. So you'll see it starts from the intention, first off, of speaking with us and getting pre-qualified, getting that letter that says you're approved for a certain dollar amount of financing in the home. But also from a Sharia perspective, it establishes that partnership intention in written form, which no other company in the US does. So we have a specific paperwork that starts off correctly with the partnership intention and you shopping around for a home until you go ahead and buy us out completely over time. There is no lending of money. The contract that you sign with us at the time of closing is not an interest contract, but it is a partnership agreement that states that you're going to buy us out over a period of time. There is no interest contract that's recorded. So in the township, the document's recorded. You can go through them. Anyone you know who has used our service, you will see that there is no interest contract or what's called a promissory interest note, like a traditional mortgage, but there's a partnership agreement that is used instead. Now, this over here, ayah of the Quran, is very important for our daily life. Not just because every part of the Quran is important for our daily life, but this here summarizes really what the difference from an Islamic finance transaction and a traditional transaction is. Because if you compare the end outcome of an Islamic finance transaction and a traditional mortgage, you're going to own a home, you're going to pay about the same, but how you got there is what makes the difference, right? In this ayah in Surah Al-Baqarah, it says, they say trade is but a kind of riba, but Allah has made trade lawful and riba unlawful. Why is that? In both cases, in interest and in a trade transaction, there's a profit made. But one is halal and one is not. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us. Stay away from riba, stay away from other muharramat and things of that sort. And so because of that, it's important that we do things in a halal manner. To give you a personal example of how the end outcome can also be the same, but one is halal and one is not. So I was traveling overseas a few years ago, and alhamdulillah, I have 2 little girls, and I had brought them back gold bracelets. And so I was so excited, came home, I said, Baba, Baba, I missed you, and I want to give you this bracelets as I was thinking of you traveling. Come home, the bracelet's too small, doesn't fit. And you know, those bracelets that are circular where you cannot open and close them. And so I said, okay, khair, inshallah. I went to a Muslim-owned jewelry store, and the sister who was helping me there, I said, you know, I want to sell these, and I want to get another pair that would fit. So she said, okay. She said, first let me see them, showed them to her, and she said, okay, I'll give you $1,000 for these bracelets. I said, okay, can I see what you have, you know, to replace them with? And so she showed me other bracelets, and the bracelets were $800 that I decided to get. So typically what would happen is that I'm selling her $1,000 worth of gold bracelets. I'm purchasing $800. She would give me the 2 bracelets and give me $200, and I would leave. But no, she didn't do that. What did she do? She first purchased my 2 gold bracelets for $1,000. She gave me a receipt. She gave me the $1,000 cash. Then she rang me up for a purchase transaction of the 2 gold bracelets. I took out $800, and she wrote me a receipt paid, and I took those 2 bracelets, and I was left with $200. In both cases, I would have wound up with the bracelets and the $200 extra in my pocket, right? But Islamically, they're 2 separate transactions. They cannot be structured as one. So the point of telling you this is that in many of our dealings in our daily life, we have to be cognizant of how we deal in financial transactions or buy and sell. But also the end outcome doesn't always mean that it is a halal transaction, right? There are steps along the way. Similarly, with our program as well, it's important to know that our partnership agreement does differentiate us from a traditional interest contract. Now, with the springtime over, now is what's called the summer buying season. And in the summer buying season, we get a lot of questions of, okay, brother, how do I qualify and what is the steps towards purchasing a home? These are the general steps of purchasing a home. Right? First and foremost, you don't want to waste your time looking for a home if it's not in your budget or you may not qualify. Or if you do qualify, you want to know that you do. You will get the pre-approval letter, right, by speaking with Brother Mayzer over here. MashaAllah, check like bodyguard, you know, MashaAllah. Alhamdulillah. With that, you will get the pre-approval letter and you will use it to shop around for a home. You take it to your real estate agent. Once you find a home, and nowadays the market is still very competitive. I know that you may have seen a lot of the news that mortgage rates are up and house sales are slowing and such. That is true. The real estate market is slightly slowing down, but it's not a crazy sell-off from sellers, right? It's still a very tight market. Prices are still high, right? So you want to go in looking for a house with a pre-approval letter that's solid. At times, the real estate agent may want to speak with what's called your loan officer to make sure that you're pre-approved. They'll speak with Mayzer. Once you have a signed sales contract, then you would come to us with the contract. We will collect your documents to verify the information we've collected, such as pay stubs, bank statements, IDs, or tax returns. Once we gather those documents, we give it to our operations team. The underwriter approves it. And then we work towards what's called closing, which is usually within 30 to 45 days. So it takes about 30 days or so, depending on the buyer's willingness to give us all of the documents at once, right? The sooner you give us a complete set of documents, the faster we could move forward and then move towards the closing. So this is the general overview. Now, many of you are asking, okay, Wesam, well, the pre-approval letter, what is it based on? Now, from 2008, right, the government has come up with some rules in place. Prior to 2008, there weren't many home financing rules that told investors how to qualify customers. After the 2008 home real estate crisis, where there was a lot of foreclosures and house prices dropped and so on, the government said you need to qualify people based on certain things. And what's called a qualified mortgage uses these three different criteria to qualify. The first and foremost is your income, right? We need to see income that you're able to qualify. Now, roughly speaking, if you have no liabilities, no car loan, no student loan, no credit card debt, if you have no liabilities, then for every $20,000 to $25,000 of income that you show, then you would qualify for about $100,000 in financing. Okay, 20 to 25,000 income, 100,000 in financing. So if you're looking to purchase, let's say, a $400,000 home, how much income do you need roughly to qualify if you have no liabilities? Can someone tell me? About 80 to 100,000, that's correct. And the reason why that range is there is in purchasing a home, there's a few factors that change. You have property taxes, as you know, fluctuate sometimes from town to town. The property values may be higher calculated based on the taxes, or if there's some other fees, like if you're buying a condominium, for example, there's an association fee and so on. So because of that, there's the range of income to qualify. Second thing that we look for is we look at your credit history to see what is your past obligations in terms of paying on time. And we use that to help make a decision as well, because this is a business transaction, right? We're here, we're saying that this is a business transaction. We're not a charity. We do use a business model to see if it makes sense to purchase this home with you, right? Kind of like, I'm originally from Lebanon. Lebanon's a very small country. If you want to know about the Berjaoui family, you ask and they will tell you, either he's a good guy, you can do business with him, or stay away from him, he's not good. Here in the United States, mashallah, it's a very wide and big country, and so there has to be a better system to know what is the past history of this person paying their bills on time. So we do use the credit system as well. And last but not least is we look for a down payment. The down payment can be as low as 3 to 5% of the purchase price. So let's say if the house is $300,000, you may be able to put as low as 3% or $9,000 down. Okay? 3 to 5% is the minimum down payment required. The more you put down, the better it is, the lower your monthly payment would be. So keep that in mind. And in all of our programs, there is no prepayment penalty, meaning that you can start off with, let's say, a $2,000 payment, for example. You want to make extra payments to finish sooner, you can. So instead of it being a 30-year, you can finish in 20-year, 15, and so on. Or if, let's say, you win the halal lotto and you want to finish sooner and put 200,000 afterwards to pay it off at once, you can. Okay, so you have that option as well, anytime to make extra payments for any amount, whether it's monthly or lump sum as well. And so with that, I want to start to wrap up and take questions, but to leave you with these different points. One is that with UIF, which is, you get three main advantages that we like to offer to the communities. First and foremost is strict Sharia compliance, right? For me as an employee, but also, as a source of income, it's very important to me that to know that the product I am using and selling is halal. And this also for you as the community as well, because you want to be in a dealings that is in a halal transaction. And we have a great Sharia supervisory board that we believe is top notch and give you a comfort level. Second is to be the lowest cost provider in the Islamic finance industry. So if you compare us to other Islamic finance companies, you will see that we are amongst the lowest of the Islamic finance companies, and we do not charge any monthly fees. Some other Islamic finance companies, they charge you a monthly fee. We don't charge that. When you compare us to traditional mortgage companies, right, because I know that, Sharia compliance is important, but for us as a community as well, we want a payment that is low and competitive. If you compare us to a traditional mortgage company, our pricing is going to be in the middle, okay? You will see some companies that are more expensive than us, and you will find also companies that are lower than us as well. We do our best to be as low as possible and as competitive to the market as possible as well. And last but not least, buying a home is very exciting. It's also nerve-wracking. If you've gone through the process of purchasing a home, it's not just the process of getting a mortgage approval, but then you have, the process of packing your boxes. When Shabbat and where's my shoes and the T-shirt, and you want to move, right? So you want to get the paperwork headache out of the way, and the best way to do that is to work with someone who's really experienced and who can set up the file correctly. Mayzer, alhamdulillah, mashallah, he's been with us for several years now. He's done several hundred transactions. He's worked with a lot of files, some easy files and some very extremely difficult files. And he'll be able to work with you to streamline the process to make it as best as possible, inshallah. So that is, with that, our program. And alhamdulillah, to give you a comfort level, not just that we've been doing this for 14 years, but many customers have used our service. They have voted us #1 7 years in a row by Islamic Finance magazine. And then also Google reviews, as I like to say, Sheikh Google, right? You go there for everything. You want to know what the review is for the restaurant and so on. You can check us out as well. Our reviews are always changing, inshallah, always for the better. Go on our website, check us out. And as we continue to grow, while Mr. Mayzer is wonderful here, we also are looking to hire as well. So if you're looking for a career in Islamic finance, please do send over your resume to careers@myuif.com so Mayzer can have a tag team partner as well in New Jersey. So please feel free to send us your resume if you are interested in a sales position with us, and we will inshallah open the floor for questions and answer. This is Brother Mayzer's contact information, and I will take questions inshallah. You can either, Sheikh Osama said, to text the board, or I will take open questions as well. Okay, Mayzer said he has a few questions on that were texted, and then I will go to the brothers that have their hands raised as well.
So the first question is, how is UIF funded? Deposits, money, market funds, bonds, stocks, sukuks? Are the mortgages sold off to secondary markets with pennies?
Sure, I'll repeat the question, Sheikh, inshallah. So the question that Mayzer had asked is basically, where does UIF get its money from? Right? It's a very good question, and we get that often. This is why we come out to the communities, to take questions, not to hide behind the computer and just say, hey, here's our fatwa, right? So first off, alhamdulillah, we do have investors that invest in our company, right? We have investors that have put about $50 million into our deposit accounts. And that is what we use to initially source our transactions or fund those transactions, the $50 million or so. Now, those $50 million is good for you and I, possibly, but it's not enough to continue month after month. We go through that in less than a month, alhamdulillah, in terms of financing in the 29 states that we're operational in. So now what we do after the closing, we do have investors that invest in our contract. Some of these investors are government institutional investors, such as Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae. And sometimes we hold them on our books, which is called portfolio, which there's no other investors except us, right? Now, Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, they're not a bank, okay? They do not lend money. It is illegal for them to lend money. What they do is they invest in contracts. They either invest in interest-bearing mortgage contracts or they invest in our partnership contract. Okay, so this is how we initially source our funds, is from private investors, some Muslim and some non-Muslim investors, and then we have investors after the closing that invest in our contract. Now, we always service our contract. What does that mean, right? So let's say we have an investor like Freddie Mac that invests in the contract. You're going to get a letter in the mail about 2 months after the closing that says Freddie Mac is the investor in your contract. Now, if you have any problems after the closing, you don't call Freddie Mac. You call UIF or our servicing department, which is called Midwest Loan Services. That's our sister company that we own. You can give me a call and I can help you out because I have access to their system because it's our sister company. No other Islamic finance company services their contract. They sell their contract, the servicing to another contract. Let's say US Bank, for example. So you're dealing with a third party. With us, you never deal with the investor. You will always deal with us. There is also a benefit to having these investors, by the way. I don't want to give you a long-winded answer, but there's a benefit to having, let's say, Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, government-sponsored entities as investors. And one of the key benefits is that, as you all know, with the pandemic, there was a lot of hardship, right? People stopped working and so on. So what happened with the government investors? They said all you had to do was give us a call and say you didn't want to make your payment, and your payment was stopped on your mortgage. You didn't have to prove any hardship. You didn't have to do anything, right? This is a key benefit as well. So having that, and also, not to digress, but from a Sharia perspective, where we get our funds from is not really a question for you, the user, right? Kind of like if I had, let's say, a halal pizza shop, right? Let's say I owned the pizza shop in Patterson. I was just there before here. That pizza shop on the corner on Main Street in Crooks? Alauddin, right? Big pizza shop. Now let's say he's selling, mashallah, his halal pizza. Let's say John owns a bar across the street and John goes to buy his halal pizza from Alauddin's. Can he sell him his halal pizza? He can. Why? Because the transaction, the pizza itself, is halal. Where John gets his money, yes, it's not halal, the bar and such, but that's not the relationship between them, right? So from us, we've, alhamdulillah, made sure the front end and back end is halal, but also just to let you know, you don't have to always look too far from that perspective in general. Yes, Mayzer.
Okay, so the next question is, according to MJA, mortgages are classified under 3 types: halal without a need, halal with a need, or not halal. What does UIF fall under?
Okay, so the brother is asking about an organization called AMJA, the American Muslim Jurisprudence Association. It's a well-known Islamic organization in the US that gives fatwa on an array of different topics, including Islamic mortgage companies. Now, in 2014, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, or 17, I think it's 2017, they had given fatwas based on a few different categories, 3 different categories. And with us, they had given us a review of use UIF if you are in need, okay? Which is kind of like a B instead of an A rating. So we went back to them and we told them what concerns that you have, and we've addressed their concerns. We've given them documents, we've sat with them, and they said that they would, revisit and give us another outlook and update to the community. So I am confident that if you call AMJA and you ask them about UIF and if you should use UIF, I believe they will give you a favorable rating as well. So give Amja a call. We know that many who have called Amja has also given us a favorable rating, inshallah.
Okay. The next one is, if anything bad happens and you cannot continue to make your mortgage payments, what are the next steps and what happens to my mortgage payments that I already paid?
Okay, so the person's asking, what if they have a financial hardship, right? In short. So, excuse me. In short, your monthly payment is due by the 1st of the month, and you have 15 days to pay. After the 15th of the month, you have a fixed $50 late payment. It doesn't matter if we finance the house that's $500,000 or $50,000. The late payment fee is still $50. So first, from Sharia perspective, we cannot profit off of a late payment. It is just to recuperate the administrative fee. What we do is a step further with that late payment is we donate it to charity at the end of the year. Now, if we keep going, worst case scenario, you say, hey, Wesam, I don't care about the $50, I'm having a financial hardship, right? So depending on your hardship, we'll work with you. So let's just say you missed your payment, you give us a call, you reach out to us and you're saying you're having a financial hardship. Depending on what that financial hardship is, we will do our best to work with you. Sometimes we stop the payment, sometimes we lower the payment, sometimes we don't do anything, depending on your specific hardship. And so we encourage everybody to give us a call whenever you have a hardship. Let us do our best to work with you. If we keep going worst case scenario further, let's say nothing can be done. We'll ask you to sell the home. When you sell the home, you will keep the profit and you will also keep your promise to buy out our share of the property. If we keep going worst case scenario, let's say you don't make your monthly payments and nothing could be done and you don't sell the home, then eventually we will follow state law and the house will go into foreclosure. Okay, so that is the timeline of worst case scenario along the way. We don't jump towards that option right away. It is in everyone's best interest that you sell the home or that you make your payment. So based on the person's specific hardship, we'll do our best.
Okay. Next question is, how do you determine the profit rate on the musharaka or ijara? And does the property require annual appraisal to ensure that the rising equity of the property goes to the buyer?
Okay, so two questions. I'll answer the second part. First is that after we close on the home, whatever happens to the value of the home is to the homeowner. Okay? So in our partnership agreement, in the partnership agreement, it says we are going to sell you our share of the property over a period of time, 10 years, 15, 20, or 30 years. And we have those payments determined for you already. So if the house value goes up, that will be something that you keep. We don't share in the value of the property going up or down. If it goes up, we don't share in it because of the fact that we're making our profit on a monthly basis. Which goes to the first part of the question is, how do you calculate your markup, your rent, or your profit? And what we do is we look for a return on our investment into the home. So let's say if we're looking for a 4% or 5% return on the home annually, that is what we use to calculate the markup of the home, of our ownership. So if we're buying a house for $100,000 and then you're going to buy out our share, and if we're looking, let's say, for a 5% return on our investment into the home, that is what we use to calculate the monthly payments, which is competitive to the mortgage industry.
Okay. Next question is, in the event of foreclosure, what happens? Who's foreclosing, the investor or UIF?
So, in terms of if we keep going worst case scenario, as I said, that there's no payment and nothing can be worked out, the house will go into foreclosure and the foreclosure will be initiated by the investor, depending on who it is. Right? You'll always deal with UIF or our servicing company, Midwest Loan Services, but it will be initiated by the investor. Okay? Now, I'm going to put you on pause, if you don't mind. I do want to take some questions from the audience.
I'm good.
You're good?
Yes.
Okay. I need you to be great, not good.
Alhamdulillah.
You got to go from good to great.
Alhamdulillah.
Yes, inshallah. Yes.
Is your profit fixed or changes from one year to another?
That's an excellent question. And this is a good question to ask now, inshallah.
If you want to, let's just say, if you have like a 30-year agreement,
Mm-hmm.
if you want to, like, have the, like 15 years, you want to pay the whole thing, how the profit going to change, or like, can you explain, please?
Sure. So the first question, I'm sorry, I blanked for a second. The first question again.
Like, is the profit fixed?
Oh, very good. Yes. Okay. So we do have two programs. We have a fixed term program and we have an adjustable, or what's called an ARM program. Fixed program is 10 years, 15, 20, or 30 years. In that program, the payment for the mortgage will never change. Okay? So let's say you go for a 30-year mortgage, and let's say your payment today is $2,000 on the mortgage side of it. That will never change for the full 30 years. Okay? It'll stay $2,000. Doesn't matter. You could miss your payment. The payment's not going to go up. Okay? What will happen? You'll only have the fixed $50 late payment fee, but the payment is still $2,000 on the fixed term. There is no prepayment penalty. So as I mentioned earlier jokingly, that if let's say you won the halal lotto, you said in 15 years you wanted to pay it off in full. So every month you're going to get a monthly statement that's going to tell you how much you have left to buy us out, our principal share out. Okay? And so let's say in 15 years, let's say you start off with 100,000, in 15 years now you have 50,000, for example, right? If you then you would just buy us out for that $50,000 of ownership of our share. Okay? Now we do have an adjustable program that we launched two months ago, which has been very helpful. The adjustable program is amortized over 30 years, but the payment is fixed for 7 years. Okay? And what this does is that it helps give the homeowner a lower payment, a better pricing, a lower profit rate. So because of this, it's helped a lot of people, because as you may have read in the news lately or heard, mortgage rates have gone up. But if you go with the adjustable ARM program, where we have a 7-year ARM where it's fixed for the first 7 years, then can change depending on the index. This has helped a lot of people. 7 years is long enough where people either stay in the home and make extra payments, they refinance, or they sell the home. Now, with that, it's kind of like if you are renting, right? If you're renting now, you have a lease. Your lease is 1 year or 2 years, and then afterwards it can go up. Similarly, the 7-year ARM is, and you're using our share of the home, we're renting it out. After the 7 years, the rent can go up, and there's some guidelines. It's not just goes up to the sky. There's some wiggle room, 2% plus or minus, and so on. So we do have both of them, an ARM program and the fixed program as well. Yes?
I have 100 questions in my mind.
Okay.
At least I could say like this. I've been listening for almost 45 minutes. I don't see no difference between whatever you try to market for UIF and the American banks, except in the contract there is an interest, or you can give me a lump sum and I have to pay for the rest of the 15 years. What's the difference? The process is the process. I'm being involved with that. I'm over my mind 100%, trying to learn something new. I don't see nothing new. It's almost the same, except in that contract, whatever is the word interest is bothered. But as you said, this is my year and this is my year. End of the day, I'm paying for it. And the most important thing is, if this program is work for us as Muslims, I wish all my mortgages with Muslim companies. But why do I have to pay more for the same process? And you put that bombshell when you said your mortgage at the end is with the Freddie Mac. That's what the American companies do. So what's the difference?
Sure. So I do understand your concerns, and we're not here to convince anyone. We're here to educate you on how it works and the different models and how we operate as well. Now, there is a difference, right? It's kind of like if I tell you, for example, after Salat al-Isha, I have to go down and, my wife and kids are waiting for me home, right? So I can't stay long after to discuss further. Let's discuss on Monday, for example, right? You won't think anything of it. But if I tell you after Salat al-Isha, I have to hurry up and get home because my girlfriend is waiting for me, You're going to tell me, Astaghfirullah, Wesam, right? What's the difference? Right? The difference is we have the sheikh that read the act of Jawaz, that makes it halal or not. We're going to have good times, me and my wife, we're going to laugh, and then she's also going to tell me the same thing, Wesam, why you have your socks on the side of the bed? Right? The difference is maybe small in the contract, but the contract, the relationship is what makes things halal or not from an Islamic perspective. There are similarities, and I've said this before. I'm not saying that you're not going to have anything similar. There are going to be similarities, but there are key differences as well that makes a product halal or not. And this is important to know, right? We can come up with also a completely different product, and it's not competitive to the industry. It doesn't follow the industry at all, right? Because it's completely different. And then you're going to say, Wesam, this costs too much. But I tell you, but it's different. But you say, but the Muslims, we want something halal and we want something competitive. Our pricing is competitive. It's not the most expensive and it's not the cheapest. It's right in the middle, right? I mean, you have some of the largest mortgage company in the United States. The largest company of mortgages in the United States is actually much more expensive than we are. And they're the largest, right? So it's not about American or not American. I mean, we're all American. I'm American. I was born here, right? But from an Islamic perspective, there's a certain way we do things. And if you don't think it's different, I respect that also. I don't, we're only here to educate and khair, inshallah. So, inshallah.
But can I ask a question?
Yes.
If that's the case,
Mm-hmm.
you said how's the American bank, why don't they have Islamic institution? If I put my money in Islam bank, how can I relate with the money?
Sure. So to answer your question in terms of, I guess, other services that we can grow. So alhamdulillah, we are growing from that, right? So we do offer residential home financing. We offer renovation financing. We offer commercial financing. In other states, as we just started recently, we're offering construction financing. If you have a piece of land, you will need the funding to build. We can start to do that in Michigan and other states. We just started also vehicle financing, car financing, so that we will be able to purchase a car also with similar models as well. And we hope to offer soon, not too far from now, a deposit account to, like what you're saying, based on Aqd al-Mudaraba, profit sharing. You put money in, we use this money to fund these transactions and give a percentage of profit back. So as we continue to grow, inshallah, we hope to have more services, and we are on a good pace to accomplish this as well as we continue to roll out in other states. So I do appreciate that, because we do need to, not just UIF, but Muslims in general, we need to have more services for the community, for all of us to benefit, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Yes, inshallah.
Which is better, long-term financing or short-term? Like financing for 30 years or 15 years?
Sure. So the brother's question is, what is better to finance, longer term or shorter term? And the answer, direct answer is, shorter term is always better. Okay? Shorter term financing is always better because you pay less profit. Okay? But most people, like myself, I go with a 30-year term. Okay? Why? Because it's a lower payment, and I make extra payments to finish sooner if I can. If I want to make an extra $50 payment a month, extra $200, extra $1,000, whatever, you can every month, or lump sum to finish sooner. But at least I have breathing room because it's a lower payment. But we do have people that go with 15 and 10 years as well.
So anything extra would go for the principal?
The principal share, yes, not the profit, correct. Yes.
So first I'd like to thank you for your time.
Wa iyyakum.
Different ways we can approach this. But I guess my question is, UIF, is it a broker service where it's basically providing the service for the Muslims in order to buy the house rather than them themselves buying the house? So basically the profit margin that the company is making is for the service that they're providing between buying the house for the owner, correct? So it's just like a broker service and the profit is basically the owners what they're paying, correct?
That is correct. Yes. And I'm just going to take any questions from the sisters if you have any questions.
Go ahead, sister.
Hi, Sam. Yes.
I wanted to ask if the lease-to-own model, what are the risks involved with that model? How does it calculate?
So the sister asks, what are the risks with the lease-to-own model, the Ijara model? In the Ijara model, the financing company owns the property, right? And so with that, there's two differentiating guidelines with the lease-to-own model. First off, although it's a lease-to-own, you do have to put a down payment, and that down payment is larger than the 3 to 5% with our partnership program. So with the partnership program or the Murabaha model, you can put as low as 3 to 5% down. With the Ijara model, the minimum down payment is 30%. So it's a much larger down payment. The other hold up with the Ijara model is because you do not own the property, the financing company owns the property, you don't have the ability or right to pay the taxes and insurance on your own. If you go with our Musharaka model, you have the option to pay the taxes and insurance on your own if you have 20% equity in the home. In the Ijara model, regardless of how much you've saved up to purchase the home, you cannot pay your own taxes and insurance on the property because you don't own the property. So from a Sharia perspective, the financing company always has to pay the taxes and insurance for you. Other than that, it's going to work out to be about the same. So I would, highly recommend the partnership model probably 99% of the time.
Go ahead, brother.
So in the partnership model, like if you're renting and like your air conditioner breaks,
Mm-hmm.
the owner fixes it, right? So in this partnership model, are you responsible solely for fixing it, or is there a partnership?
Sure, it's a very good question. So the brother's asking, this is a partnership model, so what are the rights and responsibilities of the partnership? So when we purchase a home, we do an appraisal on the property to make sure that the house is in livable condition, right? Once it's in livable condition, then you're able to close on the property. From that, it's your responsibility, the house, in terms of air condition, heating, leak, whatever the case is. And part of that is that since you're living in the house, you're benefiting from it, or when you sell the home, you're going to benefit from the condition of the property as well.
I have some good questions here.
Okay, any last question before we go? Yes.
So basically, as brother mentioned, right, a lot of people, they say the interest and Murabaha, they are just two terms of used interchangeably, right? So what's the main difference exactly in Murabaha and interest, right, in a sense of the paperwork and process, as you just mentioned in the beginning, right? And what's your right after that, and how you basically, how Islamically you can secure your, like, another Berjaoui Mayzer when somebody basically in difficulties, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why are we still adding this $50, right? Fixed $50. This is one question. The second question is, so how you predict the money, like in 30 years, your profit, in net present value? Islam is all about justice, right? You're gonna lend somebody 100,000. Absolutely, the value of 100,000 after 10 years or 20 years, they're gonna be way less than basically the true value when that person gives it to you, right? This is the second question. The third one, what makes the credits one, right? Because some people say if you just use it for buying groceries and stuff, so that's not going to make it that strong, like if you buy a car or something. Is that true or not?
Okay, so we'll go reverse order. The third question first, which is credit, right? So the credit is needed to see, because it is a business transaction we're doing, right? It's not, like I said, it's not a charity, and so we want to make sure that we're making the best decision to work with someone. We do pull your credit, and the credit, you don't have to have a bazillion credit cards and to have a high credit score, right? To be honest with you, I have 2 credit cards. That's all I have. And I only use one of those 2 because I don't want to forget to make a payment and the score goes down and then they charge your interest, right? And we can get into that, and there's different fatwas whether you should even have a credit card, right? But let's say you pay it off in full. So you don't need to have a lot of credit cards to have a good credit history. Like I said, I only have 2, and I only use one of those 2, and that's all I've had for several years, right? So you don't have to have many. But the longer your credit history is, meaning how long you've had a credit card, the score goes up, right? Because you have a history now and such. But let's say you have no credit history at all. We can still work with you if you have no credit history. So if we pull your credit and nothing shows up, right? Nothing good, nothing bad. We can still work with you as well with no credit history. Okay, so
Does it make any difference of using the credit, for example, buying a house, buying a car, buying a big vehicle or something that's a big asset, or like just buying normal groceries and stuff? Does it make any difference?
well, so the brother is asking if, in terms of your credit history, does the scoring matter whether you're using it for large purchases, like if you have a car loan, or if you're using for basic, purchasing, stuff from the halal meat market of $50 or $80 and such. And the answer is that it doesn't necessarily make a big difference as long as you're paying within a certain guideline. For example, if you are financing or leasing a car, as long as you're paying on time, that will give you a good history, okay? With credit cards, if you have a credit card, the key to having very good credit is keeping your balances about 30% of your limit. Very important, okay? So let's say if your limit is $1,000. Yes, you can spend up to $1,000 and no one will say anything, even if you pay it off in full by the end of the month, okay? But it's not good to wait until the end of the month to pay your balance off. You should keep it at 30% or less. So you've used it this whole week and you've charged $300. Pay off that $300. Yes, you may have another 2 weeks when it's due, but what happens is that the credit card companies, they report your credit balances 1 day out of the month. That 1 day is not necessarily your due date or the day after your due date, right? And so if you're waiting to pay it off, it may show that he's using 90% of his balance, and so your score goes down because it says he's having a financial hardship, maybe because he's towards his limit. So when you can, pay your credit card off sooner rather than later, maybe 2 times out of the month or 3 times to keep your balances low. You're going to pay it off at the end of the month anyway, but your credit score will improve by having a lower balance on rolling instead of a large one that you've paid off. So I hope that answers the question. Your second question again, remind me. You should have good memory, mashallah. You were reciting beautifully with the dua as well. Okay, so net present value. So with us, with our contract, let's say the 30-year term, for example, as you were stating, we don't speculate on what the term is going to be in 30 years. So we're telling you today, our return is going to be 4.5 or 5% on that home annually, right? So 30 years from now, yeah, it could be higher, it could be lower, right? Kind of like a few years ago, a year ago, when we locked in customers at 3%, for example, or 2.5%, right? Right now it's around 6% or 5.5%. We don't go back to them and say, hey, the market's changed. It's an agreement, khalas, we go with it, right? So once that agreement is made, whatever happens to the futures, we don't go change it for any reason, good or bad, right?
Just to add to that,
Yeah.
if you're with UIF, can we refinance?
Yes, absolutely. So with us, at any time you can, what's called refinance. If you want to get a lower pricing, if the market changes, you can, or if you have a traditional mortgage company or another Islamic finance company, you want to refinance with us, you can. You want to purchase a home to live in, a second home, a vacation home, or an investment property, we can do so, and we can do up to a 4-unit home, 1 to 4 units as well. I'm just looking at the time because I don't want to 5 minutes. I don't want the sheikh to tackle me off of for the salah, inshallah. That's always the most important. Yes. Yeah, and you had one more question. The main difference is if you is owning the property. That's really the key difference, right? You're in any of the models, murabaha, ijara, or musharaka, you will see the ownership, and that is what is made a profit off of. So if you go on a website, njactb.org. In New Jersey, this is a public record that tells you all of the homes, who owns the house. Public record. You can put in your address, you'll see. If you go to my address, you put in the address, and you'll see, it says who's the owner. And at that time, I use the murabaha model. In that case, you'll see that the property went from, I think his name was Francis, from Francis to University Islamic Financial, and then from University Islamic Financial to Wesam. In this case, UIF owned the property and it sold it to me. Okay, so it's not just a hocus pocus agreement. You see who owned the property, and that what was sold was the property. So the difference is the real ownership of the property. It's not just, you know, a money-making transaction, but it's money-making off of what? A physical asset. And that is the key difference in the transaction between an Islamic finance transaction and an interest-bearing contract, where there is a property, but that's not where the money is being made off of. That property, there's a lien on it, but their money is being exchanged. The bank is lending you $200,000, and you promise to pay them back to $200,000 plus 5% interest. All right, so there's a difference of ownership and contract, two main differences. Inshallah. I'm going to go to him first and then to you, inshallah. Yes? Okay. No, that's not a true statement. Sure, that's true, but it's not a true statement. First, we don't have Bank of America as an investor. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and we also, what's called portfolio, meaning we keep the transactions on our books. So we don't sell everything off to our investors. But also don't forget, the investor, if there is non-payment and there is a foreclosure, their foreclosure is based on the contract, right? So it took us years to have them as investors because we don't have a standard interest contract. We have a different contract. And to let you know how we initially got started from Islamic finance and them investing in our contract is they actually came to us and said, we heard that you do Islamic financing and we want to invest in the contracts. We said, yes, but we don't have an interest contract. They said, that's fine. They have a mandate by the government to increase home ownership within minorities. And because Muslims are minorities, we're able to get them as an investor and to use our terms of our contract, not the interest contract. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Correct. Correct. Mm-hmm. Correct. There's no interest. There's still the profit that you should have paid the times that you haven't paid. So let's just say, for example, if your payment is $2,000 a month, right, for example, and in New Jersey, if you don't make a payment and it goes into foreclosure, New Jersey is what's called a judicial state, which means the court has to review it and approve of the foreclosure. And New Jersey can take anywhere from 2 to 4 years of non-payment, right? And so with that, if your payment is $2,000 a month, we're going to say $2,000 for 2 years, let's say. And so now $48,000 is owed to us, plus whatever's left of the principal share of the home. Yes? Mm-hmm. No, that's the murabaha. Yes. Mm. Mm-hmm. 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 You do owe us 120, but we're going to forgive the rest of the term's profit. So we're going to tell you, you know what, in 6 months, don't give us 120, give us 105, for example. So we have the right to forgive the rest of the term's profit. Yes. Yes, and we do disclose that ahead of time. Correct. Yes, that is in the contract too. What's that? In terms of, what do you mean? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, you owe us 120, but we tell you we're going to forgive the rest of the term's profit. We do tell you that too. We tell you if you decide to buy us out sooner and pay us back in installment sooner, we would forgive the rest of the term's profit, and we're going to take, let's say, 105, 106, or whatever the case is. So we do tell you that.
Every month there's a payoff amount, just to add to that.
Yes. I think the holdup is that the Freddie... Correct. Yes. Well, remember, right? We're giving you the terms of the contract upfront with the payments, right? Regardless of who the investor is not changing the term of the contract, right? It's kind of like, for example, if I have an apartment, let's say, and I'm renting out the apartment, I own the apartment, and I send, let's say John to collect the payment. But the terms of the lease are the same, right? You could use the house, don't put nails on the walls, and so on and so forth. The contract is the same. So. Mhm. There is a difference also. We have what's called a non-recourse contract, meaning that if the house sells for what our ownership is, we won't come after you for personal assets, where a regular bank can come after you for your personal assets because they lent you money and they want their money back. With us, we didn't lend you any money. We have ownership in the home. Once that ownership is no longer there, we no longer have a relationship with you. So there is also a difference as well. So, sure. So with regards to a foreclosure, right, we have ownership in the house. Once that ownership in the house goes away, meaning the house is sold for whatever reason, whether you sell it or it goes into foreclosure, then from there, if it sells for less than what our ownership is, we take the loss. We don't come after you for the rest of the ownership amount that we take a loss on.
So we got two more.
Yes.
If you sold the house for $100,000 and the market drops and it's worth $60,000,
Mm-hmm.
is the $40,000 loss in a shot of the contract?
Mm-hmm.
Is that split between UIF, Fannie Mae, whoever it is, and the homeowner, or is the entire loss borne by the person being me, and do you guys make yourself whole?
Sure. So if you sell the house first, right, then we take the full amount first to make ourselves whole. If the house goes into foreclosure, then we take also what is there, and then we take whatever is left. If there is, you see, your payment, right, in the agreement, you're going to pay us back on a monthly basis. That's your promises to make monthly payments to buy out our share of the home. Yeah. Sure. I'm going to explain that to you. Right? So you have a monthly payment, and in that agreement, you're going to buy us out over a period of time. Our promise to you is we're going to stay in that contract for whatever it is, 15 years, 20 or 30 years. If you decide to sell sooner, that's on you. Now, and because of that, we're not going to be the first one to say, okay, let's split the loss 50-50. Because, first of all, we're not doing everything 50-50. You didn't put 50% down, and nor are we living in the house with you and taking up 50%, right? So it's not a 50-50 partnership. I think what happens is that when people, they think partnership, they think everything is split 50-50. But it's not the case, because let's, for example, say the pizza owner guy, right? If I want to invest in the pizza shop $50,000 and I say, you know what, I'll be an owner in the property, but I don't want to work in the business, right? I'll have, let's say, my other partner work. And he takes, let's say, 70% of the profit, and I'm taking 30% of the profit, right? Because we're both not doing the same thing. In this partnership, we're not doing the same thing. We're a financing company, and you're using the home, right? And so because of that, depending on who's doing what, the partnership changes, or the rights and responsibilities varies as well.
If my down payment is 10%,
Mm-hmm.
I should take a 10% loss because that's what the homeowners do in the business.
No, it's not necessarily it's a 50-50, right? Once again, right? Who made the decision to sell the home? You did. We didn't have any choice in that matter. When you don't have a choice in the matter, let's just say there's a flood, right? We know there's been flooding. And in that case, since it's not your fault and it's not our fault, that's when we take the split accordingly. In your example, you said 10%. You take 10%, we take the 90% loss. You see how that is? Because in that case, it's nobody's fault. In that case. So depending on what happens, the rights, responsibilities, or the partnership risk varies, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. I guess we will end, inshallah, with that. Please see Brother Mayzer for any further questions, and we'll also stay out after the salah, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Wassalamu alaikum.
Jazakallah khair, says Wesam, for this presentation. Barakallah feekum. I know you had to deal with a lot of tough questions.
Well, that's why we're here, Sheikh.
Alhamdulillah. I want to say a few things. Inshallah, we could leave this for another day. But there needs to be a bigger realization of what Islamic finance is about. You need to realize that we're unable to operate in today's world in a bubble. We have to deal with certain market dynamics. It would be great if we could just decide how everything's done from A to Z and we had unlimited funds to do that. I know that we're looking for a perfect model, but I'll tell you one thing. Traditional banks, the vast majority of scholars will tell you it's absolutely haram to get a mortgage through those banks. Absolutely. You'll find some margin opinions on the, or fringe opinions that allow it, but most scholars don't, including Shaykh Qatanani, and including myself, and including Amjad, by the way. And by the way, as he said earlier, UIF is actually considered one of the reputable mortgage companies among the mortgage companies, Islamic mortgage companies that are available. In fact, by the way, this masjid here, its mortgage was also, as far as I know, through UIF. So just so you know, our masjid's through UIF as well. There's a lot of questions to answer. Of course, it's not a perfect reality. And I know you guys have legitimate questions, and but you could either take two approaches. Let's destroy Islamic finance from the beginning and just keep the traditional banking, which is riba sarih. Or we could try to keep on pushing this model to improve with time. So this is an opinion, Wallahu alam, that we believe in firmly, that traditional banks, haram. Wallahu alam. Jazakumullah khair. Barakallah khair. I appreciate it. Allah
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح